Welcome, I'm Tom from Digilyse. Just a quick check, make sure you can see my screen okay and hear me okay. Drop a little wave or number in the chat if you can. Okay, great, I can see a couple of you there. So we've got about 30 minutes. My job is to show you how to set up Claude so it can do real work on your computer or in web browsers, not just use it for chat. The bit that does the work is called Claude Cowork. So if you think of it as like a virtual member of staff, give it a task, you can walk away. You can do the same kind of thing in ChatGPT with their agent mode, but in my experience, Claude just handles it a little bit better, and the context and information you give it enables it to just do your kind of voice and tone and the work a little bit better than ChatGPT does. If you're technical, you can also look at Claude Code. It's the same brain, but in like a coding terminal, but that's not what we're here for today. So by the end of this, I'm going to show you how some of the things you do every week can run themselves with the right setup. So the setup is what unlocks it. For this, you are going to need Claude Pro. So I'll just share the screen so you can see what's going on. I'm using a brand new account here. Claude Pro is about £18 a month. If you didn't install it, that's fine. Just watch this later and then install it. So in my Claude, there's no projects, no context, no past chats, nothing like that. It's a clean slate. If you've already got Pro, then what I'm about to do still works. You just have to be a little bit more careful about which projects you're touching. So this is what the sidebar should look like before you go in and do anything. You've got projects area, which is currently empty. You've got your kind of customize areas where you can connect your apps and things like that. And it'll give you some tips about how to actually get Claude working in the first place. So before we do any setup, what I would like to do is give Claude a prompt that you may have been doing previously. So let's set up a new project. We'll start from scratch here, and we'll call it accountancy firm. I'm not going to give it any instructions or anything like that, so it's going to be a completely blank slate. And what we'll do then is create that. So we've got this here. I'm going to type in this prompt, or paste it in rather. So Sarah Hartley just had a 30-minute meeting with Tom Davis, owners of Davis Plumbing. Discuss year-end accounts, VAT. Tom seems stressed about cash flow. And then basically I'm asking Claude there to write a follow-up email from Sarah to Tom. You can see I've got it set on Sonnet. That's just for speed. If you want it to do it like more intelligently, you can change these settings here: high, medium, low, max. Sonnet is pretty good for most tasks. Opus is very good for those kind of complex tasks. So let's set that going. Give it a minute or two to load its tools. And then you can see the follow-up email. It's got M dashes in, which we do not like, because that makes it obviously look like AI. So if you look at it, it's not wrong, it's pretty competent, but would Sarah actually send that to Tom? It does sound a bit AI, it's a bit generic. There's no understanding of who Sarah is or how she actually talks to her clients. So this is probably what 90% of firms are using at the moment. It's not terrible. Could be a lot better. So if you try and remember that response in your head, in a while I'm going to show you how things will change once we've set it up. So before we go any further, just a quick one on the actual settings of Claude itself. There's three things for you to know. You've got connectors, which is where you plug your various different things into it. So you can plug in Google Drive or Outlook or all of the things that you will want Claude to go away and look at, which will give it a better understanding of you, your business, that kind of thing. So for my actual one, it's plugged into Google Drive, so it can search my emails if I want. It can search all the documents that are in Google Drive. It can work on Excel files and things like that. So it's actually really useful. Capabilities is where you can set up the memory, so you can allow it to search and reference chats, which is always quite handy. Generate memory from chat history, always very handy. And let it discover connectors. So it's worth going through and putting a lot of these on. Have a look at customize. It's got skills and things like that. So once you've kind of got into it, have a look at those things just to help build up the context. I'm not going to spend too long on it now. We'll come back to these. But the thing to know today is connectors. That's where it has access to your drive and things like that. And that's where it pulls the context from. Now you're going to hear me say context a fair bit. It's probably the most important word on the call. Context means the information that Claude uses to do the work for you. It's got your background information, who your clients are, what you sell. So without it, it's quite generic. Like that generic email you just saw is what no context looks like. Most people make the same mistake. They try and write a perfect context file in one sitting. So they open up Claude, stare at the box, type 2, 3, 4 paragraphs and then give up. I'm going to show you a lazy way to do this, where you let Claude write its own context file. We're going to get into that in a moment. So the first pass at the global instructions. So this is the instructions across the whole of Claude. So if we jump back into settings and go to general, you can see it's got this kind of instruction for Claude. So what I'm going to do is add in what I call a little stub here. It just gives information about the company, small accountancy firm, Cardiff, Hartley & Co, work with SMEs, bit of information about the business, tone of voice, never commit to without confirmation, how we handle clients. So the kind of thing you might just add in quite briefly. So just make sure that's saved. There we go, you can see it's saved that context there, so don't need to do anything else. And that tells Claude every interaction you have with it, it will work on those lines. So it's pretty good. What I can do also is paste that into sort of a per project area. So we have this projects area, which you can set up either to have like a single project for your firm or a project each for your clients. I'm going to set up a new one here. Initially we'll start from scratch and then we'll tell it to build up its own context later on. So we'll call this one Hartley and Co. I think that's the name of the accountancy firm. Yes. I pasted that stub in from before, so the context is built into the project as well as kind of Claude as a whole. So there we go, yeah. Other things you can do, you can set it to act without asking or act before asking, change these things. But basically we've got a project area for your company now, and you can do multiple chats within that project area. So what we shall do now is take a look at an example of what a firm's filing system might look like and how you can actually use Claude to help. So I'm just going to stop the screen share for a second, pull up the right window and share that. So yeah, there we go. We've got your typical messy folder structure that like a small firm might have, or it might just be that each of your kind of projects, or some area within the business has this kind of mess. So you've got documents with duplicate folders, you've got like personal stuff in there, you've got untitled folders, you've got work in projects, you've got like years, and then you've got files just kind of scattered around, which isn't very helpful, not very helpful at all. So quite a messy setup there. What I'm going to do is, take a look at that and get Claude to restructure that into something that's much cleaner, much easier to use. Obviously, not everyone's is going to look like that. I went a little bit over the top for the demo, but the reason is, AI is only as good as the context or source material you give it, and if your source material is scattered all over the place, it's not going to be able to help you. So we'll just jump back into Claude. And tell it to look at the contents of that messy folder. That's the working drive of my accountancy firm's mess. Propose a clean folder structure that makes sense, then reorganize the files into it. Keep personal, non-work files separate personal folder. Anything that looks like old archive can go into archive. Show me the proposed structure first, then ask before moving on. So let's see what it does. So, as you can see, it starts to run things here, and the cool thing is it will tell you what it's doing as it's doing, and because I've set it up to ask here, it's going to ask me to actually go in and work on that folder. So I'm going to say yes, allow that. That sort of transparency is really important. When you use an AI, it gives you that point. So if you do want to watch it, you can watch it. If you want to build up your trust with it, you can see what's going on. It does take a short while. I did this previously and it took about 3 minutes. What I might do is not show you the whole thing as it goes, but there you can see it's building out like a really cool folder structure for me. Looks quite intelligent. So yeah, once it's done all that, it will ask me, shall I go ahead? I'll say yes, go ahead. So it's quite cool that it will ask a few times as it's going along, and the more you use it, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. But always just be careful, make those backups and start slow, start small. So I'm just going to stop it there and show you what it did in a previous example that I built. In the words of Blue Peter, is one I made earlier. So I'll just stop the screen share for a moment, reshare that folder structure. So just a quick reminder, this was the messy one, things everywhere, temp folders, old stuff, new folders, all kinds of crazy things, and then the new one has been completely sorted out. So you can see it's separated your personal stuff, it's separated receipts, scans, templates, active work, archived clients. It's pulled the client files into the right places. It's got all the docs lined up. So it's actually done a really good job there of going in and sorting out my messy folder structure. As I said, you can do that on a sort of an entire folder level, or you could do it, for your client folders or another area within the business. So fantastic job there, Claude, and really quite easy. Probably took about 3 minutes when I ran it before. If you were running it yourself and sorting through those files, might take a few hours, maybe even an afternoon or something like that. So now we've got that, let's go back to Claude, see what's going on. And Yeah, there we go. So now the second pass at context for the firm. So now we've got that tidy folder structure, which is only useful if AI knows what's in it. So if we then go into the main project settings, we can see that I can actually add a folder, and if I go and find that folder, it's not there, select that folder, it's then got all of that information as context. So this project now has all of your either client or your own company information. In this example, it's the whole company. This is probably quite a smallish firm, but now we've given it that context, it should be able to go and do that email or do things like that in the voice of the firm and be able to reference all of that as well. So it makes it super useful. So we've got the emails and everything like that in, and now what I want to do is ask it the same question that we asked earlier on. I'm going to ask it to create a stub for me, so that sort of general project context that we had before. So read everything in this project's knowledge, based only on what you can see, rewrite the project instructions for yourself, make them deeper than the stub I wrote earlier, which hopefully it remembers, cover tone, sentence rhythm, output them ready to paste into project, and I'm going to say and general settings. There we go. Let's see what it does. So bearing in mind it's using the context from all those files that we tidied up to now go and build up its information on the firm and recreate that stub, which I can then paste into the project setting instructions, or the entirety of the instructions within Claude itself. So let's just give it a minute or two to do that, and hopefully there we go. We have a revised set of project instructions built from documents. So it's gone into a lot more detail now. It's told us where it's based. It's given us the tone and rhythm, the terminology, and everything like that. So it's done a fantastic job there of using that context to then build out its own information. So we could go back here and we can edit those instructions from earlier on. Much deeper instructions now. So I'm going to save that. So it's got a much better idea of what it's dealing with. So the cool thing there is actually, like, when we started, we didn't have that context, but we added the context to Claude, and then it's been clever enough to go and build out a new set of instructions for that. So you can actually iteratively improve it as you're working with it. And again, if you wanted to, you could go into the main settings area and change those main instructions for Claude. So it could either be project based or it could be based across the whole of Claude. So I'm just going to save that now, and you can see we started to get a few different chats coming up in Hartley and Co project. So that's the firm's brain, saved. Every future conversation that you have in this project knows this firm. You can go a lot deeper into it and set up files that it must check every time, and just like I did then, you can tell it to create them. You can tell it to create its own memory. You can tell it to create its own instructions that it must follow every time. And then you can tell it to add them to that file structure, that context area. So it's really cool. Okay, so remember that email that I asked Claude to do earlier on? Let's see if it does a better job of it this time. So same thing, Sarah just had that meeting with Tom. There's a number of things that were raised and a number of actions. VAT calculation, pension scheme options. Tom's a bit stressed out about cash flow during expansion. Who wouldn't be? So write up a follow-up email from Sarah to Tom Davison. I'm purposely doing this in a new chat area because I want it to just pick up the kind of main context from here. So you can see it's done this now, and it looks much more personal, much more kind of on the ball. It's so much better. Deadlines are in, cash flow concern is there, there's a bit of empathy. Yeah. But one thing I should say is I can actually go into those instructions and tell it not to use these M-dashes. I forgot to do that, but that's a simple thing you can go and do later on. So if you do spot something where you're not happy, you can add it in. Don't use M-dashes. Save that, and then next time that email should not have M-dashes. So there you go. You can use Cowork like a member of staff. You can get it to work directly into your computer, as we saw with the folders. It can go into Word documents or Excel sheets. It can organize things for you. It can go into websites for you and actually work directly into software that you're using or forms that you need to fill out. It's very, very handy. Just a quick tip on saving a bit of money. Use the chat area to hash out ideas before you go into Cowork. You probably need to set up a new project in the same way that you've set up in Cowork. But if you use chat just to hash out ideas, it will cost you a lot less money because it's not doing as much work in Cowork. You're using up a few more tokens, especially if it's going off and doing those tasks. So refine your ideas in chat and then bring it over to Cowork to actually do. So there you've got it. Use it like a member of staff. Each project can either be a different part of the business, like marketing or accounts or whatever, or you could use each project as a different client. The setup itself compounds. The longer it runs, the better the firm's AI is going to get. Now, if you want me to come into your firm and do all of this for you on your machine in a single day with your real files, your real clients, and a handover at the end, I do an AI sorted day, which is a flat fee of £999. I've got 5 slots open this month. I can split it over 2 payments if it's easier. I'm going to put the details in a follow-up email. Also, if you sign up within 48 hours, I'm going to do a reduction and do it for £799. And finally, I offer a guarantee where if you don't see improved results within a week of the setup, you get your money back. So that's it, 30 minutes. I'm going to stop the recording in a moment. 2 things. 1, if there's anything you'd like me to dig deeper into for your company specifically, just reply to the follow-up email and I'll come back to you personally. 2, thank you for spending your lunchtime on this. I'm going to send out the recording shortly. The details about the AI sorted day are on there, and you'll probably get that within about an hour. So cheers.